With a new year comes a whole new world of possibilities. And we'd like to share with you 4 things you can do to make 2013 the best year ever. These are 4 things that can be put into place now. Not resolutions, not things you have to put together. These are steps you can take to make this the best year of your life.
So to get you started for a new year, we want to make sure that you know how to live life according to God's plan. In fact, we have 4 points that each start with the letters of the word life, L-I-F-E. The first thing we want you to do for 2013 is, of course, love. Jesus says in John 13, "By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Our job as Christians is to show and to share the love that God has for us. Because when we love other people that way, that love can change our lives and it can change the world.
Now, love is important, but if we're just loving without anything more, we sort of end up being like a radio, playing all kinds of love songs, but never knowing if anything's accomplished by what we're saying or what we're doing. That's why in 2013, we not only want you to love, but the I for the word life is intentional. We want you to be intentional. In Colossians chapter 3, it says, "Set your hearts on Christ who's seated at the right hand of God." You know, the idea here is sort of like a telescope. If you've ever looked through a telescope, it's cool. I mean, you see things that you could never see with the naked eye. But getting a telescope set up is a lot more difficult. You can't just point it generally into the night sky. You've got to get it focused. You've got to be intentional about where you're pointing it. And so the idea of being intentional is extremely important.
The F stands for focus. You know, the other day I was going to go for a run, but my contact was stinging my eye, so I put on my glasses. But it was muggy outside, so they kept fogging up, and I could barely see a couple feet in front of my face. I couldn't focus on the path I was running, and it was harder than what I thought. Sometimes life is that way. It's hard to focus. But Jesus calls us to focus on what matters most. In 1 Timothy 4, Paul says to Timothy, "Focus on reading the Scriptures and encouraging other believers." These should be the things that we center our lives around. We need to be in God's Word. We need to encourage each other. Because these are the things that matter the most. Our relationship with Him and our relationships with others.
So in our acronym, LIFE, we've given you 3 of the letters. Love, and then we talked about loving intentionally. We talked about loving with focus. The E in our acronym is explicit. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, Paul talks to Timothy. This is a seasoned pastor talking to a young pastor, and he's saying to him, be an example. Well, let's insert, instead of the word example, let's insert the word explicit. And so Paul says to Timothy, be explicit in what you say, in the way you act, in the example that you're living out before your people. In 2013, we need to be explicit in our love. You know, when it comes to my wife, I dearly love my sweet wife, Julie. But if I love her and I never say anything, that doesn't work very well. And maybe just as bad if I love her, but I say it all the time, but I never show her in any other ways, that doesn't make for a great relationship. And so the reality is, in this new year, we need to love with intentionality, we need to love with focus, and we need to be explicit. What would happen if in 2013 there was a warning label on you? You know, we've all seen the warning labels before a video segment or a movie that says explicit graphic language or explicit violence. What if the warning label on us said explicit love? What an amazing year it would be. Here's praying God blesses your year and blesses your loving in 2013.